it's Jeff here. Before we start our latest Six Nations pod, just a quick word to remind you of the Harpin Guinness Pint Predictor League. If you think you can predict the scores from this year's championship better than our panelists, then why not prove it by first downloading the free Fanzo app, then joining our league. Just enter the code Harpin, that's HARPIN. You can win a free pint for yourself from every match by just getting close enough to the right result. But we're also looking to see who gets the best score from an individual round. So far, we've got Christy O'Connor, who got 46 in round one. So there's still plenty of time to sign up and beat that. Right, on with the show. Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin on Rugby preview show. Joining me to look ahead to Ireland's next match in the 2023 Guinness Six Nations is someone back for their 16th pod. Welcome back to Mr. Kino Muller.
Hey, Jeff, delighted to be back again. And just so no one's confused, this isn't French blue, it's Leinster blue, just so it's grand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he just raised it up there. It actually says the Lion Pit. So we will allow it. We might even sing a bit of a Lele Blue. We hear that a bit at the RDS the odd time as well. Listen, before we talk about Saturday, Kino, you've been pouring over the stats from round one last weekend. I was wondering if anything, like any one or two things, caught your eye.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and some of the things that struck me were the points of similarity between the two sides. In terms of the, say, rucks won and lost, Ireland won 97.5% of their rucks and France won 93.4%, for example. Now, Ireland had more rucks because they play a more ruck-intensive game, but they're fairly similar, relatively similar kind of win rates. You know, they're up there in the 90-plus bracket. Again, carries per ball action is about 46% Ireland, 42% France. Again, pretty similar. 4.8 meters for Ireland, 5.7 for France. Again, that points to the difference between the two games, but not a huge difference between them. A couple of them start to stand out, though. I'll kind of look at those now. Ireland lineouts, 1 loss stolen. Ireland was 15-0-2. So won 100% of our lineouts and stole 2 of theirs, whereas France was 7-2-2. Now I know the Italian second row, I can't remember his name, had a bit of a stormer, but with only 7 lineouts, 1 and 2, like out of 9, 7 from 9 is not a great return, and a lineout is a bit harder to fix than
with the changes we've had in our lineup, the lineouts are going to be particularly important to us this weekend. So that's definitely a big one. All right, yeah, sure.
The place kicking as well. Ireland were 6 from 6. You know, both kickers. And France were only 4 from 6. So they still haven't always got that reliable place kicking option to go to, which is okay when you're scoring lots of tries and the other team isn't. But in a tight match, it can 6 points can be. Like, that's huge in normal Six Nations scoring terms. 6 points is absolutely the winning or losing of a game. I got some interesting ones from Carrick Blake as well. Ireland had 65.5% progression and France at 55.8%. That's an attack that ends at least one zone further up the field. So anything above 50 is decent, but I think his analysis previous to this showed that I think more than 4% of a difference tends to indicate a winning side. So for Ireland to have had 10% more progression, attacks that end more than one or more zones up the field. And again, that probably speaks again as well to the difference in play. Ireland kicked long with a lot of the ball, but then were kicking very accurately as well. So they were finding that space. Now, the one that went against us was the lightning quick rucks. This is one of the ones that we do rely on. Ireland had 58.3% of rucks were less than 3 seconds. France 69.4. Now, again, they were against 2 different sides. It's really hard to judge these things on a one-off basis, but it does seem like they were getting really fast ball, and if you get really fast ball for DuPont 70% of the time, you're going to end up in pain at some point. So that points to a job our back row.
You need a reliable defense. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's all very good. It's interesting that the ruck speed was one we were interested, because we were noticing against Wales they were showing figures early in the game, and it was actually good. Our figures were just seemed good for that game. We were all talking about, oh God, it's Conor Murray, not Gibson Park, whatever. But it showed that he can change it, and he was able to keep the pace going himself. But obviously, it's going to be a different story. We're up against a different kind of defense, and there's all sorts of things going on. But no, that's a lot of good numbers, Kino, from week one. But now we're going to start Harpin actually on the feature match, which, as you can see, is Ireland v France on round 2 of the 2023 Guinness Six Nations. Kicks off at the Aviva Stadium at 2:15 p.m. on Saturday, February the 11th, and the match is being broadcast on RTE2 and ITV1. Now, Ireland named their starting lineup on Thursday, so let's have a look starting with the back line. At fullback, of course, Mr. Hugo Keenan. The wingers, James Lowe and Mac Hansen. The centres, Stuart McCuskey and Gary Ringrose. And the halfbacks are Conor Murray and, of course, skipper Johnny Sexton.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that back line, I mean, last week, Keenan was Ireland's security blanket. He was always in the right place. He's at the right time in defense. He knew exactly what needed to be done. He was great in the air, literally did everything he could have been asked to do, and wasn't even required to make a tackle, according to the official stats. Hansen had a quiet match, I think, by his standards last week, but he did his job. He got 2 dominant tackles in and topped the offload charts with 3. And then Lowe on the other wing was causing chaos. He was boisterous in attack and defense, made 220 meters off that left boot, won 2 turnovers, made 112 meters off 6 carries, one of those being the worldie intercept, which definitely helped bump up the numbers. They are going to have their hands full. It's a French backline capable of breaking from anywhere, and they have power and pace, and they have a 9-10 axis that can deliver the ball to them at a moment's notice. So they're going to have to be on point defensively. I think we're going to be tested early as well. France like to kick, so they're really going to have to be on point in both sides of the game.
Absolutely, yeah, be a big test for the for our centers, I think, as well. Defensively, just basically marshalling the defense. We all know Ringrose, but it's kind of it's not an untested, completely untested partnership, McCuskey Ringrose, but they wouldn't obviously play together as much. So how they work together as well is going to be a big factor as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, the Rinky center pairing did very well. 18 tackles between them, 115 meters run, and 5 broken tackles as well. Like they were getting away from their tacklers. Stu's offloading game and strong running game is definitely going to be needed to test that French midfield. Ringrose hopefully can leave a rib tickler or 2 on Entomac.
That's it. That'll be big, all right.
So then, as well as that center pairing, Johnny Sexton, Conor Murray. I mean, it's a very experienced half pairing at half. You've got Johnny Sexton, who's 14 points off all-time point scorer in the Six Nations. He's only 6 penalties off the all-time penalty scorer on the Six Nations as well. Now, it's 3 years since he last got to play against France, which was an 8-point loss away. Since then, it was a 2-point loss at home and a 6-point loss away. The Irish team is in a very different place than it was at that point. He last played in post 2019 World Cup, and I reckon he's been eyeing this one up from a long way out. So I will expect a very fired up Johnny on the day. And Conor Murray, he was touch and go to be in the squad with some difficult personal news, which I won't go into. But I'm glad that he is able to contribute, because he was great value last week. Accurate kicking and swift delivery throughout. He had a dominant tackle too, and with Dupont opposite him now this week, he's probably going to need that in the arsenal, because as we all know, Dupont loves a snipe.
He does, and of course he got some extra minutes against him last year at the Aviva Stadium, like a whole extra half hour on top of the 80 minutes or whatever it was. But it's definitely a challenge for the backline, but it's one they have the experience in there to get it done. Okay, we'll move on to the forwards now. The front row is Andrew Porter, Rob Herring, and Finlay Beelum. The second row, Tyg Byrne and James Ryan, and a back row of Peter O'Mahony, Josh Fender-Flair, and Caelan Doris.
Okay, Irish forwards. So you've got Porter, Herring, and Beelum in the front row. I mean, Despite a rash of penalties given away in the second half last week, Porter was key with second highest carries in heavy traffic, ruck work, tackles, and a key try saver. Beelum proved his mettle yet again with a solid scrum performance, which included winning a scrum penalty and an assist for Ryan's try. And Herring is a proven performer at this level. I mean, remember New Zealand? Anyone remember that one by any chance? I know I do. And he's in the top 5 line-out throwers in Six Nation history, along with Cian. So no slouch with the darts either. It's also possible that Herring's shorter torso will help get rid of that seam on Porter's side of the scrum when Cian's there. Just the disproportion between like Cian's so tall for a hooker, I think Porter's body shape doesn't fit particularly well with that longer torso. So possibly that might go in our favor for a more stable scrum. I don't think we're going to be looking at trying to win balls against the head now or anything like it. But
just get our own. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Get a stable platform, get the ball out, paint a good picture. If you can get strong and square and hold your own, that certainly go a long way to that. Ty Burn, James Ryan in the second row. Hard to argue against what's probably now our best starting second row pairing. Maybe not as gigantic as some other teams might have. France, South Africa, I'm looking at both of these. They are dynamic and athletic. Byrne's a constant danger over the ball, and we will need him to be looking for opportunities to slow or poach for any opportunity that comes his way. And Ryan is really, this season, is showing some proper dog about him. His calling has gone, like, O'Connell has done a wonderful job with him because his calling has gone another level. And the bit of dog with that, it suits him very well. The line-out is now a weapon in attack again for Ireland, where it certainly wasn't not too long ago. And I think there are real opportunities as well in defensive jumping. Going by last week's French performance, their line-out was not as tidy as it could be. And getting to that next, Peter O'Mahony in the back row, along with Josh van der Fleer and Keelan Doris. He did superb work last week. High ruck arrivals, efficacy, and work rate. He was just really efficient at the ruck. Not a glamorous part of the game, one that often goes unnoticed, but he really did put in the shift. He also always raises his game for games like this, so I would expect to see a steal or a turnover at a key moment from him. And then Van der Fleer and Doris, they're like something from a sci-fi movie. They've both been gushed over so much. I'll limit myself here to a little bit.
We'll save it for the aftermatch discussion. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. No, it's the expectation level is high, and you do see people questioning O'Mahony's presence there. But I mean, before you even talk about what he does on the pitch, he's the kind of guy. He just is the presence. Just having him there in the dressing room, he's a great guy. He's a sort of a rallying cry to everyone else. That's before you get his performance. And you talked about lineouts; they go to him so much in the lineouts. He's such a reliable option, and it's just. The team just looks that much better now, and like you say, in the big matches, he tends to really come in, put in the full performance, and not just in the first 10 minutes, as much as the last 10 minutes as well. So he's someone you want there
for sure. He is definitely a glue player. And then Van der Fleer and Doris as well. Then you only have World Player of the Year and Doris, who's been absolutely tearing up trees. Last week they made 32 tackles between them, missed none. Doris carried 11 times, which was the joint highest in heavy traffic, and 50% of Van der Fleer's 14 tackles were dominant tackles. 50%.
So he's been working on that too. Jesus. Oh, it's scary when you put it into numbers like that. It is really looking good. Okay, we'll move on to the bench now, and we've got Ronan Kelleher, Dave Kilcoyne, Tom O'Toole, the reserve front row, Ian Henderson, Jack Conan round out the forwards, and in the backs it's Craig Casey, Ross Byrne, and Bundy Aki.
Yeah, it's given them the rake of injuries we've had, it's actually still quite a decent bench. There's a lot of experienced heads on there. There's a good bit of power and there's a good bit of zip as well. It's a massive opportunity for O'Toole, who deserves the shot, frankly, and I'm delighted he's gotten the call up. But as well for Casey and for Ross Byrne. Bundy Aki, I expect him to be a bit of a a leadership presence in the center of the field. He needs to deliver a calm but powerful performance. We absolutely need to make sure that we are nailed on keeping the penalty count low in this game. And I'm not trying to single out Bundy for this. He has certainly gotten a bad image of late. It's possible the ref might be.
That's it. That's the worry. It's not
that.
so much the fans'
No.
expectations. It's what the ref sees in his previous record.
Oh, for sure. You see, this is the problem. This is the problem. Once you've gotten a couple of calls like that against you, you need to be more than clean. You need to be squeaky. You need to be absolutely clean, or you know the marginal calls will go against you. It's only human.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, hopefully it won't be an issue. I think a key is, I mean, with every game we've seen this season, it's going to be how the first 20, 30 minutes go, and who if anyone gets to establish themselves, especially on the scoreboard. Okay, so now it's time to have a look at our opposition, which is, of course, France, or I'm putting that way, France. As ever, my graphics department will put the names on the screen, or if you're listening on the podcast, they can be found in the program notes. So how do you think their lineup is looking, Kino?
That's shit.
Yeah. Next topic. Moving on.
Oh my God. It's why is it every time France put out a team sheet, it's like, oh, they've got a rake of injuries and they're really, oh, there's no Danty, there's no Villiers. And then you look at the team sheet, you're like, oh, but what? That's not fair. Look, I mean, where's the weakness? It's, you know, I mean, you can try and start picking it apart, but I mean, look at that. I mean, that front row is just insane. I mean, you could really put a case forward for that being the best front row unit in the world by Marchand and Antonio. In terms of scrummaging, certainly in terms of the set piece, scrummaging front row, then between them and South Africa, really. Flamand had a good game. Willemse, you know, that it's really hard to pick apart any gaps in the team. Maybe Ramos. You know, they're trying things. Yeah, they're missing Danty and Villiers, but I mean, they still have Fiku and Mofana and the centers there.
And you haven't even said Peno yet.
I know. And then a 6-2 split. They are absolutely going to go and play the same way they've been playing since they really kind of revived the French team into something wonderful. It's going to be 10-man plus rugby. They are absolutely going to grind it through the pack. They're going to kick it to play outside of their territory as much as possible, and then rely on the absolute brilliance of Dupont when he's on form, and Ntamack as well is capable of absolute moments of brilliant, and then you know release. Like literally, I mean, Penaud, yeah, for sure. But you know, anyone in that back line is capable of doing a really horrible job. And then you got Jalibert to bring in off the bench as well, just in case.
I should just throw him in, yeah. I mean, and also like what you were saying on our pod last weekend about the Irish team, when you talk about that, the whole more than some of its parts aspect that you need for a top rugby team. Ireland, you talk about Andy Farrell's the sense he's given them a sense of player-led belief. Where for the French, they're kind of unified, like the fact that they've got the World Cup this year on their home turf and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of spurring them on as well. The pride playing at home and maybe lifting the cup for the first time and their home. So that's kind of been driving them for the past year and so as well. So you've got the coming together of these two great teams. It's really all really well set up. Definitely. Okay, we'll move on to the officials now, and it's Mr. Wayne Barnes holding the whistle for the game, as you can see there. Matthew Carley, Jordan Way, and Brendan Pickerel rounding out the officials. The weather for Dublin is it's supposed to be, looks like good rugby conditions. Partly sunny, 11 degrees, not much rain, not much wind. Can't really say. Hopefully that stays the same for everyone in the Aviva Stadium. Which brings us on to where we put our heads on the block for prediction time. So we're going to start with the other matches. So maybe have a look at Scotland v Wales.
Yeah, I thought Scotland last weekend were very good at executing once they got in their 22, but they weren't able to stop a misfiring England still from generating chances. Wales created a good number of opportunities, but they weren't able to finish them. But stymied Ireland for about half an hour in that second half once they figured out how to play the ref. On the balance of things in that game, I'm going to go with the steady selection and home advantage. So Scottish win 11 points.
Okay. And next on Sunday, we're going to have England against Italy.
Yeah, Italy were handed a golden opportunity last week, but their kicking let them down. England are finding their feet, but they have selected Farrell at 10 with a bigger 12 inside him, which would be very familiar territory to him. I think home advantage as well. Then on top of that, this puts this well beyond Italy. Though I reckon they'll take one scalp before the end, at least before the end of the tournament. So I'm going to say England by 19.
Okay. And which, of course, leaves us with Saturday at the Aviva. Now, you could say this clash has everything. Top two teams from last season, top two in the world rankings, both on the same side of the World Cup draw, both got maximum points away from home in round one, evenly matched in many ways. You've been saying home advantage so far. Could that tip the balance here?
You've been reading my notes again. Look, it's going to be an immense battle of defensive systems. But for me, I think Ireland have evolved more since last year than France have. And France haven't faced a stern away test in some time. The last couple of games we've had with them have been very tight. And this time we have Johnny as well. I think this one's going to come down to a few breakdown penalties, though. As they're going to be playing on the edge, I reckon it's going to come down to that. And then by extension, probably how the line out is functioning. But again, yeah, home advantage on top of the additional flexibility of the Irish systems to be the difference. Ireland by 6.
Great, and fingers crossed. And if everyone's downloaded that Fanso app, be sure and get in your predictions and see if you can beat our scores and win yourself a free pint yourselves. Right, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks, Cian, for joining me for another preview show. Hope to have you on again soon. And to the listeners, be sure and join the conversation on Mastodon throughout the match, and then maybe head over to our Facebook page at full time and leave your thoughts there. Right. So until then, in the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.
Good morning, Jeff.